is third-party warehousing and logistics partners that you may have. We have a number of customers that do this. They're e-commerce companies that take orders, and they have their inventory managed for them by third parties. And it could be in Europe, it could be in different locations in the United States, in Canada, where I'm from, or wherever. So it's the concept of having a global fulfillment center. And now what we have to do is, so you take orders, Acumatica is the system of record. It's going to know about the orders, it's going to know about the inventories, and it has to communicate with these companies. So just quickly, there may be more than one of them, but how this product is put together is you have the standard Acumatica product, and then we have what we call a TPW connector, which sort of looks like this graphic. It sort of bolts into Acumatica, and it allows you the ability to put what we call plugins then, and you can have plugins that will talk to individual vendors. You may use, as this customer I'm going to demonstrate they use a multiple number of logistics partners. They use a different one in Europe than they use in Canada, than they use in Eurasia, that they use in the United States. And they may have a couple of warehouses in the United States, basically to cut down freight costs. So what that product is going to do here, I've pulled up a shipment right now. So in this customer's environment, what happened is the orders came in. They actually came to a Magento website. There was a connector that basically brought all the customer information and the order information into Acumatica. And I've got a lot of background noise coming in. Some people are talking.
Yeah, I cannot really change it. I'm in a
Oh, that's you.
Yeah,
okay. All right.
I can mute myself. Hold on. Can I?
Well, what I'll do, no, don't mute yourself because your comments are important. What I'll do is I'm hard of hearing, but I'll turn mine down a little bit because I'm going to be talking most of the time. So, okay. So, what this product does is we actually inject another thing you're doing. We make Acumatica think that foreign warehouse that's, say, in Europe is actually just out the back door of your offices where a conventional warehouse usually is. And so you have visibility of all that inventory, and we think that inventory is your inventory. And we do that really easily. We just go into the Acumatica system, and we go into warehouses, and we've added a little thing here. We basically say, when you have a warehouse, we basically just say, okay, is it a third-party warehouse? And just by clicking that button, and then you pick one of the plugins that we have, and we have a number of plugins, and we develop custom plugins for third-party logistics partners whose APIs we don't currently have plugins for. You basically pick one of those plugins, and that's all you need to do. Then all of a sudden, that becomes a virtual warehouse that Acumatica thinks is like one of our real live warehouses that we're in control of. But when it comes to a shipment, and we go out to a shipment, normally when you go to a shipment, the next action that you'll have to do will be to confirm the shipment. So we went through, created the order became a sales order. We had the sales order process looked at, we had enough inventory, it decided to create a shipment. Now we've created a shipment, and we've got to tell the third-party warehouse. Well, what we have to do in this case, we've injected another action. It won't let you confirm the shipment because this is a third-party warehouse. You actually have to send a fulfillment request to your partner. So once I do this, I'll send a fulfillment request out to my partner, and it's gone out, and it said, yes, okay, the fulfillment request was sent, and I get a fulfillment request send success. That means my partner out there actually said, yeah, I've got your order, and I'm working on it. Now, the next thing I can do is if I...
Before we go further, Greg, can you address the use case, what we have? So we ship about, what, 15,000 or 20,000 packages a month. So one shipment at a time, that will not work. So it has to be kind of a whole list of shipments for the day, and then the system needs to decide where to send these shipment requests. Depends on the address, where the customer sits. So how would the system handle that?
Exactly. This customer who's actually some of their data that I'm working on, they actually did upwards of slow days would be 1,000, big days might be 4,000 or 5,000 orders.
Right.
And what we did for that customer is we had a background process. Currently, there's some new features in a new version of Acumatica that I'll address later. But in that version, we had a background process that kicked off every so often. It would go through and it would look at the sales order, and depending on what country it was or what part of the country it was, its zip code or whatever, we would basically say, oh, this is what warehouse I want you to supply this order from. Mm-hmm. So that would be a background process that would go through and do that. Right. And this would happen all automatically. And then the same thing, we wouldn't go in and do the physical things that I'm doing right here, right now. That would all happen in an automated process. Every hour, some third-party warehouses didn't want it every hour, some did. So depending on who they were, we would basically send the orders every hour, or send them at the end of the day, or send them first thing in the morning. We would send them off in a batch to them as well. So that happened automatically.
So Greg, would you do me a favor, please, and click the diamond icon.
Click the diamond icon.
So go top left under the word sales order. No. Yeah, there you go. That one right there.
Yeah.
No, up. That one.
Oh,
so
triangle icon.
Elmer triangle. Excuse me. Thank you. So we mentioned that the automation features of Acumatica. So if you look at those icons across the top, the pencil is for your everyday work. The diamond or the triangle is for the processes or background processes which you can schedule on a clock. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned you've got 20, 30, 40,000 orders. Mm-hmm. What we say is, okay, every 30 minutes, go grab all the orders. Then go sort them by their zip code or their country code, or whatever way that you determine that orders in Canada go to the Canadian guy, orders that have a European address go to your European warehouse, orders in Asia go to the Asia, and every 30 minutes, Acumatica kicks off, grabs all the fulfillment requests, and then automatically sends them out in the background that Greg just mentioned.
Yeah. Okay.
So that all happens automatically. Mm-hmm. So the system scales. So if you have 10, 20, 30, 40,000 orders, we care in terms of having the scale and making sure we've got the computer horsepower, but we don't care in terms of the impact on the end user, because all of this is done with the scheduling and platform automation tools of Acumatica. It's designed to do this.
Yeah. Okay.
All right?
Yeah,
so that's how that works.
Good. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah. So anyway, once that's done, then the next step that you go through and you actually would. Now, I've had to kind of fiddle with some of this data, Elmer, so I apologize that I won't be able to do this, because I actually confirmed this order earlier and then I reset it to unconfirmed, but I didn't quite do it right. So, but normally you would just go through and confirm this, and then that will do the exact same thing. It will run out and it will ping the third-party warehouses system and says if you ship that, and if you ship that, then at that point in time it will go out and it will get you. Let me just pick another one here. It'll run out and it'll get you your information that you wanted, which will be your. What you'll get back at that point is you'll get back a reference number from them, and you'll get back all your packages. You'll get your tracking number. You'll get your serial numbers. If you have serialized inventory, it will bring back all your serial numbers. So I'm not sure. None of this looks like serialized, but if you did have serialized inventory, you'll get that back from the companies as well. Mm-hmm. So the third-party warehouse will do all that for you as well. In addition, if your third-party warehouse supports RMAs and you're doing a and you are doing a return. So if you're doing a return of a product, it will issue an RMA to your third-party warehouse, and it will do the same kind of syncing and communications at that point with your third-party warehouse, so that when they acknowledge receipt of the goods from your customer, that in that turn it will release the Acumatica document, and that document will be able to go through and create a credit for your company, for your customer.
Yeah, okay.
So that's how that works. I was going to mention that this was an older version of Acumatica that this product first came out on. With the newer version of Acumatica, they have what they call webhooks in it, which allows us to do things much more dynamically. What will happen is, rather than us going out and frequently kicking off jobs, what it'll really do is it'll allow some of the systems to actually push notifications to us, and we'll then kick off and do these jobs. So, as an example, rather than us having to go out and pull information from the vendor system, sometimes the vendor will allow us to supply him with a webhook. So we'll say, okay, here's an address, and every time you finish an order for us, just push the order number out to that address. And so then they push us that information. We go and we say, oh, order's ready. We go through and we do all this in an automated fashion, rather than doing it either in a batch fashion or, as I was doing it here for you, in a manual fashion.
Good. So, correct. So some of the 3PLs are maybe willing or may not be willing to integrate with an API with the system. So if they're not willing, what other options do we have? Do we have CSV files we can transact on, and have a FTP server we can go and find information, or what is the fallback there?
Yeah. Well, yeah. The answer to your question is yes. Whatever they would take. If they would take, for instance, we had one customer that would only take stuff over EDI that was encrypted via an AS2 EDI encryption method. That was the supplier in Europe. And we developed a system where the system actually exported a file and then sent it to their system, and over the EDI transactions all encrypted, and we sent it to them, and then they slurped it up. So that was an example of one that was pretty hard. It's been my experience of late that the vendors are actually fighting now to offer you this functionality. If you look at some of the vendors, for instance, here's one you use, but here's, for instance, Shipwire, and this is their API, and they publish all their APIs. They give developers free accounts. Almost every big 3PL right now is really pushing, their API and their connectivity to your systems. They want to make it easy for you to do business with them.
Okay. So, not my experience. Our 3PL provider did not allow us API access to theirs. But anyway, so we are in the process to change the provider anyway. So, but that may happen again, right? So how?
But Elmer. Yeah, Elmer, we have done this. Two things. To answer your question specifically, we set up an FTP site so that vendor that did not allow connectivity could upload, as you said, a CSV file into the FTP site, and then we would go daily and pull from it and populate Acumatica, and then push back into it the fulfillment requests, and they could go grab that. So that's kind of the poor man's approach, if you will.
Right.
And we've actually, as a sidebar, we've used the same approach. In the U.S., you have this term called undeliverable, and this is where something ships out and for whatever reason is returned by the common carrier. So when it comes back to the 3PL, they don't really know what to do with it because there's no RMA on it. Right? It's been undelivered. And so sometimes their systems can manage undeliverables, sometimes they can't. And so we developed an FTP site situation where they could input the data on the undeliverable, put it into something we could read, and then we could read it and understand what the problem is and give customer service at the account, hey, this didn't get delivered, call the end user up, or the buyer, I should say, and say, hey, what's up with this? You know, and it turns out, you know, maybe they gave their work address versus their home address. And,
you
know, FedEx wouldn't supply all of the above, right?
Yeah.
So the answer is the FTP approach is the kind of the workaround.
Yes.
That's kind of overall point number one. Point number two is within the Acumatica framework, we support RESTful, SOAP, XML, all the major types of communication protocols that you would expect in a modern system. And your point is well taken. Sometimes we go to the third-party warehouse and they give us their XML API document, and a few days later we've got it all working. Other times it's, we're starting to develop the alphabet. We start from scratch because they don't have it, right? So that's why these plugins, we've got some, and others, as Greg mentioned, we've got to develop. And then the cost of that development, in part, depends upon the sophistication of the system that we are integrating with.
Sure.
So,
and then I guess the other thing is, if you have a connector, an API, then the API may change from the different vendors, and then you got to update.
Oh,
your
certainly,
plugins,
certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly. That's why, if you'll notice, if we go back to how the plugins themselves. So each vendor has a plugin. So for instance, this is one that I created. You'll notice that this is the arguments that they need in order for you to communicate with them. And then, if we look at another one, you'll notice that their set of arguments are different. So each of these are different, but at some point in time we establish commonality of the way that they talk to us and we talk to them.
Yeah. Okay.
One other thing that we do as well is we map all of our ship methods to their ship method. So, for instance, they call it FedEx Ground Residential RPS, and we in our system are calling it FedEx Ground SIG. So, what we do is we map all those carrier and shipping methods with all of their carrier and shipping methods. So, we translate.